Well, as Pro Farmer Crop Tour scouts started in the east, the heat really wasn't that bad, but it blasted them in Illinois on Wednesday, and as we found out, it didn't feel like walking fields. The high humidity made it feel more like swimming to sample fields in the east this week, and in Iowa, it's clear drought is taking a toll on the crop.
And I'm going to stretch this out.
Field by field,
Because of the moisture, they're going to end up with a pretty decent corn crop, it looks like, out of this field.
ear by ear.
Pretty decent ears, just lack some length.
Day one of Pro Farmer Crop Tour produced some surprises.
Just a little bit of kernel tip back there.
But overall, scouts saw a more consistent crop than they did last year in Ohio.
Good solid corn crop, especially for the state. Ohio's typically a hit or miss state, and it looks like most of the area is hit this year based on what we've seen.
May and June were dry, but in July, it finally started to rain. And once it did, the corn and soybean crops in Ohio really started to take off.
I think overall, I think it's going to be a better crop than we had last year. In particular, I don't know if it's going to be as good of a crop as what we had in 2021, but we're set up to have an above-average crop.
As day two of Pro Farmer Crop Tour sprawled across Indiana in the east,
Pull that ear.
scouts found a solid stand count in corn. And in soybeans,
I count 39.
the pod counts were also strong. But for Eastern Leg agronomist Mark Bernard, Indiana's corn crop wasn't impeccable on his route.
Well, a little bit disappointing on the corn side relative to what the hype was when we came out here. On this route anyway, on the first four samples, it hasn't really blown me away.
According to Pioneer agronomist who covers Northeast Indiana, he still thinks his area of Indiana will see an above average crop.
What percentage of that above average will be seen at this point?
The biggest concern right now, tar spot.
In my geography, I'm seeing it significantly higher levels than what I've seen in the past years.
As scouts waded through Illinois on Wednesday,
I think as we keep getting further west, the beans are getting better.
they were less than impressed with fields surrounding Bloomington, Illinois.
The Bloomington area was very dry earlier in the year, created shorter nodes on the soybeans, thereby shorter soybeans.
Megan Yandel has been on crop tour for 13 years, and she says the dry weather in June definitely took a bite out of the crop here.
I personally thought that we would lose some of the top bushels just based off what the weather has been, and we're definitely seeing that.
The area was dry from May 7th to the end of June, but the derecho that blasted across Illinois on June 29th was a game changer.
I think across the whole state of Illinois, it really propelled everything forward and probably saved some people from having failures.
Pockets of sudden death syndrome and phytophthora are showing up slightly across Illinois soybean fields. In the corn, Pettit says tar spot was confirmed in Iroquois and Livingston counties just this week.
At this stage in the game, I'm not overly concerned. Other than going into harvest, if it does blow up, we could get some potential stalk issues.
But with heavy morning dew and the fact 2021 was also a dry June, similarities and warning signs are starting to pop up.
I would say, in my opinion, we're 8 to 10 days early from really determining whether it's going to still be problematic this year or not. I mean, there's still a good 35% to 40% of that yield left to be packed in those kernels from a starch and dry weight standpoint.
What scouts saw on the final day of Pro Farmer Crop Tour in the East
It's good corn, but the ear count wasn't very good.
was an extremely variable crop.
That's what they called that.
Peter Meyer describes this Iowa crop as the most variable and the most mature he's seen in his 17 years of crop tour.
This crop just didn't get enough moisture, and it ran out of energy.
Meyer says while signs of stress are visible, he's actually surprised how well the crop has withstood such little rain.
It's certainly not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination, but when you look at ears at what the potential could have been with some rain, it really could have been a monster.
Adding to the complication, the variability that's also showing up in soybeans.
I don't really know if it's SDS or if it's just that it's their time to go.
And as you can see, fields of yellow soybeans are just another sign of the challenges eastern Iowa farmers have faced this year.
It's interesting because you'll come upon one field where I would say that maybe 50% of it is this yellow color, and the field is obviously dying.
The biggest concern for beans now, not just the heat, but one weather model pointing to little rain in this area until September 8th.
Now we're sitting here with going to be 2 or 3 days of 120 degrees heat index. beans are an August crop, so this crop is not finishing very well.
Reporting from the eastern leg of Pro Farmer Crop Tour, I'm Tyne Morgan. So now that we've had a look at Pro Farmer Crop Tour this week and know the final numbers from Pro Farmer, what does it mean for the markets? We'll talk with Brian Grady and Chip Flory coming up next.